Welcome to SikhCast, brought to you by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.
This episode of the SikhCast is from a live webinar titled Love, Devotion and I, featuring presenters Inni, Kaur and Jaswant Singh. The event originally aired on February 12, 2022.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you for joining today's webinar hosted by the Sikh Research Institute. This webinar will begin with a moderated discussion between our panelists today, after which we'll have some time for Q&A from the audience. So please drop your questions in the chat box and be sure to include your name and city. Just to quickly introduce our panelists today. Today we have Inni Kaur, who is the creative director at the Sikh Research Institute. To Inni, every single day is a celebration. Her writing is inspired by that same outlook on life, as well as Sikh thought. While she writes anytime the spirit moves her, she thoroughly enjoys watching the clouds pass her, taking long mindful walks to appreciate nature's innate beauty, and painting abstract artwork. She is a passionate author, poet, and artist. Inni Kaur resides with her family in the United States. And we have Dr. Jaswant Singh, who is a scholar of Sikh studies. His immense love for Gurbani propels him to read, reflect, research, and share Gurbani's wisdom and understanding with a wider community. He currently serves as the director of Gurbani research at the Sikh Research Institute. Notably, he is heading the Guru Granth Sahib project. To view the work being done by this team, visit gurugranthsahib.io. I will put the link in the chat soon. Jaswant Singh is a great traveler who enjoys visiting historical sites and currently lives in Faridabad with his family. I'll pass it on to our panelists now.
Thank you, Manvinder, for that wonderful and warm intro. Ji Ayanu Jaswant Singh Ji, it's such an honor to have you here with me today to talk about this topic, which is very near and dear to my heart. And thank you for doing that. Love and devotion, these are very powerful words. So I want to explore these words with you through the lens of Gurbani. Love, though, is a four-letter word, but it encompasses so much. So Jaswant Singh Ji, before we dive into what Gurbani is telling us, is showing us, is revealing to us, what is your understanding of love and devotion?
Thank you for the intro. And I think you have rightly said, love and devotion are very powerful words. Though in English we use the word love, and it is a four-letter word, but in Hindi and Punjabi, its equivalent is prem, which is 2.5 letters. But you will see through our conversation today that prem, or it's another synonymous term, is pyar, are much more stronger and deeper than the word we use in English, love. And you might have heard this song, Dhai Akshar Prem Ke. And to me, when I hear these words, love and devotion, to me, they express the gist of divinity, and they express gist of human life. And I see, if you can say, love is like a tender feeling of affection. Devotion is a dedication and implies selfless love. So to me, love in its matured state, a little more concentrated state, you can call it, or a deeper state, is devotion. They are interconnected. And I would say, one is incomplete without the other. So love and devotion, they paired together, make our lives enrich. They make our lives, are beautiful. They make our lives blissful, and so on. Thank you.
Yeah, what you said is, I would agree with that, because I think I'll share something. It is when devotion entered my life that I experienced love at a far greater depth. The magnificence and the vastness of love I experienced. Before that, love was just a very heady feeling. It was just, there was this high, which was good, which was great. However, when devotion entered, there was a sweetness, I would say a steadiness. And if I may be so bold enough to say, there was like a deep knowing. It was a different feeling. And it was through devotion that my expanse of love got deeper, and the understanding and the experiences changed. We both have shared our understanding, though very short, because we could go on about what it means to the both of us, what love and devotion means to us. But in Gurbani, there are multiple words, and you touched upon that before, that convey this feeling. There's prem, there's neha, there's pyar, there's mohabbat, there's preet, there's ishq, there's rang. All these words invoke, at least for me, particular feelings, and they speak to a particular dimension of love. Ishq is much deeper. One would not use this for the member of one's family. It is reserved for the beloved. Now, I'm not going to get into whether the beloved should be a capital B or a lowercase b. Beloved is beloved, at least for me. So can you speak about love and devotion in Bani for clarity, so that we're all on the same page and we bring our listeners along as well?
Yes, you have rightly said, there are multiple words in Gurbani used for the term love and devotion. But I also see, the words used in Gurbani are wider and deeper than the English word love. For the reason I was just looking into that, into the root words where this love is coming from, and where the other words used in Gurbani, they come from, and how do what are their connotations, and what sort of sense and meaning they convey when we use them. So when you look into the love, the word love, it's equivalent in Sanskrit and Hindi would be lob, which is also used in Gurbani. Mm-hmm. And lob means greed, desire. Mm-hmm. So the English word love is somewhere, closer, or giving a sense of desire, giving a sense of greed in it. Whereas when we see in Gurbani, the Gurbani says where there is greed, there can be no love. Yes. One of the contributors, Baba Farid, says, "Jaan lab ta neho kya." If there is greed, there is desire, there cannot be love. Mm-hmm. So when I looked into these various words you have just mentioned in Gurbani, so pyar. So when you look at the pyar is not just love. It also includes it also exhibits kindness. When we look at the sneh, the word sneh includes grace. Rang, as you have said, color. So there is some sort of immersion into it, some sort of dying into something, you are dyed with color. And ishq, muhabbat, they come from Arabic. Ishq is intense love, and muhabbat has a sense of friendship in love. So when just looking at the words and the meaning, they include kindness, grace, they include intensity, they include friendship. And also, there's another interesting thing, that in Gurbani, sometimes two words are used together. Mm-hmm. So that makes, that how authors or the contributors of Gurbani, they want to have more impact of these words. They want to make them much more stronger. I feel they are already stronger than the word love. But when they are used together, like prem pyar, het pyar, preet pyar, look at them, both means like love being used together. Ishq, muhabbat, they're used together in Gurbani. So that makes it, much more interesting and tells us that how the Gurbani uses these words, and how Gurbani wants to, convey the message through words. Maybe just prem is not enough. So they use prem, pyar together. to multiply their impact. So that's to me, at least, is a very interesting thing.
Wow, I mean, that's so powerful. And we in English language are so poor with just one word, love, which does not carry grace. It carries friendship, but I don't know whether I guess there's an element of kindness, but that intensity, that depth, it's all missing. And then when you spoke about the two words like prem bhakti, bhav bhakti, it's so beautiful. So describe that for us. That what is this prem bhakti through Gurbani?
Okay, interesting. I just mentioned two terms together used for love, and then we will see in Gurbani the term bhakti in English would be like devotion. We have been
Right.
just talking about. So love and devotion. So if you ask in simple words, what is devotion? So I'm reminded of one of the beautiful tuk from Gurbani, which explains in so simple, plain words, har bhagati, har ka pyar hai. So what is devotion? What is devotion to the divine? The Guru says, is Guru Amardas Patshah's tuk. He says, devotion to the divine is love for the divine. So which means, and devotion also loosely can be translated like worship, the ways, different ways people worship their deities. So what is that worship? What is that devotional worship that you talk? The Guru says, it's love. So being completely imbued with the object of your love or the deity or the divine, that is devotion, which means if you are missing the element of love in devotion, or if you're missing the element of love in worship, in prayer, or in the service, or whatever you do, then that's not, that devotion is incomplete. And then further, I see this love and devotion also used in Gurbani together. As you have just said, pao pagati. So there's a beautiful line, pao pagati kar neech sadai. Rather, it brings another element into it. Love, devotion, they should bring in the element of humility, humbleness. They should make you humble. So again, we just spoke about kindness, compassion, and kind of things. So this neech sadai is like having love and devotion, being devoted, being in love, and still feeling yourself humble. And there is another very, very interesting talk that you might have heard many times, and the talk is by Bhagat Kabir. So he uses both prem and bhakti together, and he defines what is Khalsa. So in this beautiful talk, he gives the definition of Khalsa, and he says, Kaho Kabir jan paye Khalse. What made ordinary people Khalsas? So he says, Prem Pagat Jeh Jani. Again, Prem, love, Pagat, devotion. The one who experience love and devotion, those who experience and then live their life in these elements of love and devotion, they became Khalsa. They became pure and sovereign. And do you know, Inni in Gurbani, there are many attitudes mentioned regarding devotion. What sort of devotion you can show, you can have towards your deity, towards the divine. Would you like me to explore a bit?
Absolutely. I mean, that's. I mean, you're a treasure. You're a gold mine. I want to pick your brain. I want our audience to really, get a glimpse of the wisdom that you have. So it's a treat for us. Please, Jaswant Singh ji.
Okay. Thank you. That's like, I guess you are showing a little bit extra love and kindness to me. Thank you.
Not extra.
But this is I see it, these, you can call them different forms of love and devotion, or you can call them different attitudes. They are so enticing, they are so beautiful. And look at, we will see that when the authors or the gurus, contributors of Gurbani, they are aware that they are different mindsets, they're different people, they are different behaviors of people. They are different sorts of people, that they're coming from different, lifestyles.
Right.
And definitely there are different states of minds. So looking at all those things, there are at least, I'm going to share today is about 4 to 5 different attitudes. So let's begin with, like a child.
Mm.
So we can call it the attitude of a child. I mean, when a seeker looks upon the divine as a parent, as a guardian, and he has that feeling that a child has for their parents. So you can, recall a tuk like, "Tu mera pita, tu hai mera mata." So,
Yes.
I mean, there are many tuka, many lines in Guru Granth Sahib, which literally says, "You are my father, O divine, you are my mother." So when we read these kinds of tukan, these kinds of lines in the Guru Granth Sahib, so they show us then the behavior or the attitude that we need to have, or at least we have, is like we are considering the divine as a parent, as a father, or as a mother. And then we see there's another attitude called attitude of a servant. Like you consider yourself servant to the divine. You have that element of service. And then you visualize the divine as all powerful, all knowing master, the owner. And you can recall, the words das, jan, literally means slave, servant, your person, I'm your man, And on the other hand, you use the word swami. We see in the Gurbani used swami, malak, owner or master. And like Atok, we can recall is Jan Nanak har ka das hai. Guru Nanak, using these words, Jan Nanak har ka das hai, I am a servant of the divine. And all this greatness you see in me, he says, belongs to the divine. So, I mean, these kinds of sense when it comes in the Bani, so that shows an attitude of a servant. You can talk to the divine like a servant, like a person in service talks to his boss, his master. And then I was just looking at maybe, when you are a little more matured, so you would like to see the divine as your friend. You may say, why should I behave? Why should I consider the divine as my father? Why should I consider him as my master? Why not as a friend? So there are plenty of lines in the Guru Granth Sahib where the seeker addresses the divine as his friend, rather a dear friend, a very close companion. And there are plenty of words like mitar, yar, meet, sakha. You might have heard this talk, sun yar hamare sajjan. It's just like, you're talking to your buddy. You're talking to your, some very close friend. You say, hey, oh, my friend, just listen to me. So these kind of words, are of an attitude where you can talk to the divine, you can communicate, you can share your thoughts and whatever, like a friend shares with another of his friends. And then a much more interesting is like the attitude of a lover. So this is where, you fall in love. And remember, I mean, we always say this, that it's not enough to fall in love. You need to rise in love. So this love element we see throughout the Gurbani. So this attitude, the attitude of a lover, is like, like two lovers talking to each other, or spouses talk to each other, or a wife talks to his wife, his husband, a bride, these kind of words like kaman, nari, suhagan. All these words are used for bride. And on the other hand, kant, soho, bharta, they are used for the spouse. So we talk like kaman to sigar kar, ja pehla kant manai. First establish your love, and then think of adorning yourself. Because if you lack love, the adornment will not really help. So we see, after friendship, there is this attitude of lover, where two lovers are having communication with each other. And then lastly, I would say there is another attitude which we can say, attitude of a devotee. Like a devotee now, he is content. He has a stable state of mind, not of that friendship, not of that servant, not of that lover. He has maybe, excelled himself or risen to a little higher state where he feels composed. What he wants is, he says, I don't want anything. I just want your grace. I just want your bliss. I just want, to be content in my life. So he has no desires. So all the pagats, they come into this category. And there is this beautiful tuk, pagat aradha ek rang. The pagats, They have no desires, no expectations. They are in ek rang. They are, in a state which is very steady, which is stable, and with a single-minded love, they adore the divine. So, you can see there are 5 attitudes that I've shared with you: attitude of a child, of a friend, of a lover, of a devotee, and so on. May I ask a question, Aniji? If I ask you, which form do you like to take? Or what do you think, which of these attitudes or forms you feel are closer to your heart or closer to your personality?
Wow.
And why?
That's a great question. Put me on the spot, but I think for me, it sways between a friend and a lover. And it depends on my state of mind, because my relationship is part confessional, part negotiating. I'm always negotiating, part romantic. It's a combination of the lover and the friend. It's that. It's definitely not of a child or a servant or a devotee. There's no way I'm there as a devotee, because I'm still saying, I want this, and I'm questioning and I'm negotiating. But for me, it's an intimate relationship. It is actually one of a great friend and for great love. And it's for love that will take me. There's a complete trust that this love will take me to experience the beloved, the one. And it's with this that I will be there. It may be because I'm a romantic at heart, maybe because I'm constantly seeing, the wooing and the seduction happening in nature all the time. And I want to be wooed and seduced by that. I mean, to me, it's the most natural thing, to see the sunrise and touch the flower, and the flower bows, and the drop falls, the dew falls. And that to me is this, all night she's been waiting for this light, for this one to come in and grace her. And now the sun has come. He has come. The light has come. And she bows in gratitude, and so for me, when I see that in nature, for me, that's the great seduction. And that's where I want to be. Yeah, so it's a lover and a friend, where I dare to ask. I do question, not question so much. It is where I feel like, okay, I need to experience this. Help me get through this, and there's this constant conversation and dialogue. But that's me. Dare I ask what your relationship is?
I knew you were going to ask that.
How could I pass that opportunity? You gave it. I mean, you asked me, and I think it's only fair that I ask you.
I think it's a good question. And I was just pondering upon and looking into myself. Though in my personal life, I'm quite romantic. But to me, it's one, of course, of the friend, So maybe from the very beginning, when I was even a child, I looked upon the divine, not as anything else, but like a friend. So I had no fear. I always thought, if there is a chance, if there is an opportunity to appear before the divine, I can just go and say hello and, can ask anything to him and share my thoughts.
Right.
And the second I would say is of a devotee, because another thing that I see received as a grace, I should say, is like, from the very beginning, I had no desire in my life. I had no expectation, at least from the divine. I always saw or experienced or felt that he has already given me so much. So there is nothing that I can ask other than his love, and other than his connection, other than his grace. So I feel these two, friendship and of a devotee, are more closer to my heart. But I also feel, that we can't categorize them that you can always feel this. I see that maybe in times like, when you are in pain, you may feel like crying and you may feel like, praying before the divine like a child. Maybe and in some state of your mind, you may feel the divine like you mastered, and you would like to feel that you really want to be in service, you really want to be devoted like a servant. So I feel, that even in one person's life, at the different state of mind, at the different stage of life, and even maybe over a week's time, or maybe in a day, you can feel different attitudes that
Yes.
touch your heart and then make okay, maybe you are feeling differently in those moments of time.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, but I mean, you said that that you don't have any expectation. Well, I'm not quite there. I mean, it's like, for me, it's like, okay, this is a bond you and I, have, and the expectation is that you will take me to experience what I need to experience, what I'm yearning to experience. And, today's Hukam from Darbar Sahib was by Bhagat Ravidas, and he says that this lifetime I have devoted to you. And that's touched me because that's how I feel. It's like, this is the bond, it's you and I, and we're in for this ride. And no matter how long it takes, I'm with you on this, and you better keep me with you. And that's that way to speak to a friend, and that's that trust of that love that I know it's you. So that, for me, is there. But just one thing, I know we were supposed to take questions afterwards, but there is a question which I think relates to this, and if I may I ask you that question?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So, what is this is, I think, Sanmeet Kaur is asking, what is the significance of Yar and Sajjan in same line? And then Mittar and Yar, also Guru Gobind Singh Saab's banis at levels of intimacy. So I think probably, the significance of Yar and Sajjan. So yeah, what would you say to that?
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Yar is definitely, literally and otherwise the meaning is a friend, which is very close to your heart. And Sajjan, literally, like as we call gentleman, but also used for a friend in Gurbani. So in this line, they are both synonymous, close to each other. And as we have just discussed before, the Guru Sahib uses two words together, prem, pyar. So in this line, he's using two terms for the same meaning, like when you say, oh, my friend, oh, my companion, right? And even if we see, there are sometimes three words together. Meet, Sakha, Mittar, they can be all together. Meet means also friend, Sakha means also friend. So they are used to show more closeness, you can say, or have a more impact on somebody, when you're using two words together. Yep. Yeah.
All right.
And the other line that the questioner has referred to, Mittar Pyare Nu Hal Muridan da Kehna, I guess.
Right.
So there too, Mittar and Pyare, you see, oh, my loving Mittar, oh, my loving friend. Yeah. So these are the ways, the Guru Sahib, and we see the contributors, in the Gurbani, they refer to the divine, and they address as the divine is very close to the heart, as somebody, very well known and just like a friend.
So tell me just one thing, are love and devotion separate elements? Is devotion possible without love, and vice versa? I know you said in the earlier that it's not possible, but I want to explore that with you.
Good, yeah. So I think, though they are two words, and we have two separate terms for them, love and devotion, and there are two elements attached to them. But still, I feel they are connected with each other. They are progressive in nature, we can say. At least to me, this is how I feel. They complement each other, and one is incomplete without the other. If we say love is the first step, and then I would say the devotion would be the second, and further immersion into it or surrender would be the third. And as I have said in the beginning, love when it is not that ripe, or you can say love in a ripened state is devotion. When love has taken a stable state, has matured, has become like permanent, that's devotion. So that is why you see, the people, they fall in love, but after 2 years, after 5 years or so, they break away. But throughout the Sikh history and in the Gurbani and the Sikh literature, we see the Sikhs, those who fell in love with the Guru, rather we would say were devoted to the Guru or had that devotion, they never broke away from the Guru. So to me, love and devotion are though two terms, but are very connected, and they are, you can say, they are two sides of the same coin. Love would be incomplete without devotion, and vice versa. May I ask, what are your thoughts? What do you think, these love and devotion? And do you think love and devotion can be expressed to everyone on a human level? Or do you think, love can be expressed and not devotion maybe? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think for me it is, intellectually, and what I'm working towards is that one needs to love all, right? Okay, see the divine in all and love all. That's the intellectual understanding and my understanding. But in this practice, I do struggle. That for me to love all, I come from that school of thought that there are plenty of, there are things there, people there, creatures there, whatever it is, everything has the light in them. So if I look at the snake and I'm saying, I accept you as you are, but I know in this lifetime, you and I cannot be friends. And that acceptance is there, but there's no love towards it. And there's definitely no devotion. And I was fine like that, Jaswant Singh, for this thought served me well for many years, many, many years, except in the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, there was a tension in my life. And I said, I just need to accept this, that this is the snake, and I need to just walk away, accept. And the Guru said, can you become the sandalwood tree so that the snake can wrap itself around you, get the fragrance? Can you be that sandalwood tree? And for me, that was a turning point. I had never thought about it was much easier for me to walk away when things are painful, when things hurt so bad. The acceptance, I just need to walk away. I don't need to engage in this. But here, Guru was saying, become that sandalwood tree in the midst of all this was tough. So that devotion bit, and even that love then, so therefore for me, this became a little different, that yes, while I say I intellectually can say I love all, there's no way I can be devoted to all. I can maybe accept all for and see that they have the light, they are there with the grace. But am I loving all? I don't think I can at this stage in my life. The one that I'm devoted to has my complete devotion. And it's not because I chose that. It just happened. Unbeknown to me, it happened. So, because devotion just flows. I don't know if that answered the question, but this for me has been love and devotion has been something which it's because devotion entered that I understood that devotion is a component, there is that expansion of love. And I understood that. But I don't think, Jaswant Singh Ji, there is that I can be devoted to all.
I think you're right. When we say that we love all, so that definitely it's not, the sense is not, or we are not saying that we love everyone the way we love that we are in relationship with. That's definitely not feasible, you can say. That would be something different. But I think when we say this, that let us love everyone, so this means we are saying that let us show reverence to all, or at least in my case I treat it like, okay, if to me, if I have to apply this to me, love all, this would be that let me not have any hatred towards anyone, whether I dislike somebody or whether I'm not in good terms with somebody, whether I am not speaking to somebody, that may be the case. But I do not have any grudge, any hatred, any disliking within my heart. So to me, that is like, showing or not showing, or at least having that reverence, or that having that sort of love to all. And because we see in Gurbani, Guru Sahib, and throughout the Bani, Bani tells us to see the divine in everyone, to see the divine in everything you do. So for me, that is like having a reverence for everyone. That is like feeling a presence of the divine all around. So you care for everybody. You have that sense of care that if there is a need, if there is somebody, who needs your help, so you would go and help, irrespective of, you are connected with the guy or not, you know him or not. So, I mean, to me, this is how I deal with these kind of things. But I think what you said, it is practically, it would be hard to love everyone the way we love the one that we are in a relationship. Well, Inni ji, let me move. Let me ask you another thing.
Oh, no. I thought this was something which I was asking, not you who were asking me.
No, you can also ask. There's no issues. Okay, my question is, we hear people talking about human love and divine love, right? Do you think they are different, or do you think they are one? And second question, do you think can we experience divinity in love in a human relationship? And this question is related to, the things that you have just spoken about, your life and the experience you've gone through and so on. So maybe I thought you can have more sharings to share with us.
I know. Yeah, thank you. It is a personal, the only way to answer is through a personal lens. Otherwise, it becomes an intellectual or a book understanding, and that's not who I am. I am no scholar, Jaswant Singh Ji. I'm just an ordinary person living an extraordinary life. And it is through the experiences that, for whatever reason, I've been graced with. If you had asked me this question 10 years ago, maybe I'm sure my answer would have been different, very different. The idea, the notion of divine love being different from human love, and whether we can experience divinity in love in a human relationship. Today I say yes, absolutely. There is no difference between divine love and human love. There is no dichotomy, there is no binary in love. Love is love. It's rare, but it's possible. Can you experience the divinity in love? Yes. This is what I refer to as the transcendence in the relationship, where you recognize, honor the divinity, the jyot in each other. And that's when that relationship becomes sacred. Otherwise, how to, and that sacredness, and then you do everything and anything for that sacredness. It's no longer that you're doing something for that other being. There is no other. It really is. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਨੂੰ ਮੱਥਾ ਟੇਕ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ. This is that sacredness, this intense love has allowed you, has entered you, and is allowing you to experience so much. So whatever you're doing, or whatever that feeling, that bhavna, those things that enter you, which where Guru says you want to become the dust of the feet of the individual, where you want to take the charan tool and put it on yourself and adorn yourself. It all happens when that sacredness enters. There is no tension, it's just flowing. And this and the fact that you want to kiss the feet of the one you love. If you had told me 10 years back, I would say no way. But today, I say yes. That there is no other place you want to be but there. And there's nothing that you want except to be there and just be in that presence. There is जो भी देंगे ठीक ही होएगा, बढ़िया होएगा. That, and it's not from a feeling of subservience. It's a feeling of richness, of that absolutely wonder of experiencing whatever I am experiencing in that presence. It is actually when that sacredness comes in that you experience it. And it could be, I'm reminded of, and it's a little different about when you asked about the divinity, right? In one of Professor Puran Singh's poems, he writes, he was out for a walk and he encountered a woman who was preparing gobar, cow dung, with a child suckling on her breasts. And the sun was shining. And he said he had never experienced the divine until that moment, because in that moment, he saw divinity. He did not see the cow dung. He did not see anything. So even at certain moments, that when we can experience that, they could be rare, but he writes about that. And I'm always struck by that. Can I experience that? And yes, there have been moments where I have, I've looked at when I've been shown something in nature. It's like, your head falls and you experience that divinity. But in a relationship, and that's in a human relationship, yes, just one thing, Jay, because I have witnessed that in a relationship where I have seen that. And I have experienced that to a certain extent in my life in the last few years, where the sacredness, which wasn't there, which I never experienced, is there now. So is it absolute? Does that But what happens is that in that relationship, even in that sacredness, you want it to continue. You want it to be 24/7. You want it to be sada. You want it to be eternal. And sometimes it isn't. It's something happens, and there's a shift, and then you go back and say, and then the intellectual comes into it, that this is something which I adore. This is the being I adore. This is that sacredness. Why is there this tension now? What do I need to do? So there is that constant thing. So it's not sada. It's not eternal. So even in that sacredness, while it's there for the moment, it's not that eternal, which Guru says, that sada sohagarna, that she's the eternal bride, that eternal connection, that connection, even in that depth, shifts for a bit. And I'm very conscious of that shift. And I don't know how to get past that, or how to, I don't even want to say overcome, but it is like, why is this even entering in this relationship? Your thoughts, Jaswant Singh Ji? Maybe I'm sure you will give me some words of wisdom that will help me in this.
Wonderful. First of all, I would like to say that I'm seeing a poet transforming into a devotee, right? In Inni Kaur. So you just referred to when we were talking about the attitudes, that you feel you are more closer to the attitude of a lover and a friend. Now you can add the third one of a devotee. Because the experience that you have just shared is something of a being completely in devotion. Good. It was really amazing to hear that. Okay, when I look at these words, human love and divine love, first of all, I would say there is simply love, right? When we are talking, using this term maybe for a particular person or a human being in a limited sense, so we use this human love. And when we are using this term for the divine, who is all pervasive, who is in all of us, so perhaps just to make it distinct, and we use this word divine love. But still I feel when we use this word love for a person, for a human, so it is a relative in nature. When we use divine love, so that means we are referring to something absolute, something more inclusive than relative. Second, I would like to say is nature of human love is limited in its nature, physical, and self-oriented, because we are all limited beings. We are all, very selfish in nature and self-centered and kind of things. In the sense that this human love has a greater element of love, but shorter or smaller element of devotion, maybe. On the other hand, when we refer to divine love, or when we use these terms, divine love, so we are talking of limitless love. We are talking of love which is beyond physical, which is divine centered. And I feel in that we have a greater element of devotion than love. So this is how I look at them. And I agree what you said, that one can experience divinity in a human relationship, provided the love is deep and heartfelt and is genuine. As I'm reminded, a very beautiful talk of Baba Farid Ji, one of the contributors in the Guru Granth Sahib, and he says, love has to be true and sincere, not just a display. For the heartiest love alone has value. And the talk is, Dilo Muhabbat Jen. We have been just referring to the word Muhabbat. So he said, Dilo mohabbat jen sei sachiya. Dilo is heart. Those who have love, deep love, and heartfelt love, they are sache, they are true. And those jen manhor, mokhor, se kande kachiya. Those who have one thing in their heart, that, and something else in their mouth, like they say, I love you, but from within the heart, they don't have that feeling. So he said they are not true lovers, they are false lovers. And in the Sikh history also, just exploring on this human love kind of thing, we see Pai Lehna and many other examples, who show that when you experience this divinity in somebody, like Pai Lehna, seeing the divinity in Guru Nanak Patsha, and that you are devoted to, there is no difference in human love and divine love. It becomes one.
Yes.
But you are right that this situation, this state of mind, that this experience is difficult. That is why we see in Sikhi, we are asked to love the Shabad, the wisdom, instead of a personality, because there is also you can say, a possibility of falling into attachment of the personality rather than his or their wisdom or their attributes. So this is where the principle of Shabad Guru and Sat Sangat, which are foundations of Sikhi, they come in. And we are reminded of Sat Sangat is like a collectiveness, a Sangat, where you have all sorts of people, also exalted, also ordinary, also extraordinary. So that collectiveness makes you more be imbued with love, be imbued with the wisdom. So I feel, this is how, if we go by the Sikhi principles, of course, you can experience that human love, the divine love in humans as well. But it is rare, as you have just said, it is hardly, a soul like you, a poetic soul can I think feel these kind of moments in life. Not everyone.
Yeah, what you just said is so true, because it's when Shabad entered my life that I experienced love. Until then, I was a dry twig. Honestly, there was nothing there. But it was when Shabad entered that beautiful nectar, it was like the stream of nectar that went inside and made this twig blossom. It really was and is the Shabad. Devotion took its time to enter, even for me to recognize that. But I'm very, very clear it is when Shabad entered that actually life began. Before it was in existence. Living for me was when Shabad entered my life. Jaswant Singh Ji, at this point, there are a couple of questions which are related to, which I wanted to ask you. There is one which is from, I think it's Ishmeet Kaur, and she is asking, can love be experienced through yearning to meet the beloved, or is it just a pain of separation? And I think the second question is also related to that, if I may. And the second question is from Eileen K. So I'm saying maybe it's Eileen Kaur. Divine love is experiencing Shabad. How can divine love and love for human be compared?
Okay, first to Shmeet Kaur.
Hanji.
So I think what I'm going to say is my own experience or my own way I feel it or I experience it. Yes, of course, the yearning, the longing has that element of love, or rather, I see sometimes that the purity of love exists in that longing and in that yearning. If it is genuine and if it is true And in the sense, true in the sense, if it is not self-centered. So I feel, I agree with that, that yearning and longing becomes synonymous to love. At least this is how I look at that. So it's not just, maybe, it has an element of pain, but that element of pain also is like, you can say comprised of love molecules. So that pain also gives you strength. That
Right.
pain also gives you a feel of love, a feel of connection. So this is how I look at that.
Yeah, I think I want to add something here, just one thing, Jay, because ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਖਿੱਚ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, this is that pull, right? That yearning is that pull. Unless you don't have that pull, that khitch, वो प्यार नहीं होएगा. And then that yearning actually takes you through that journey. It doesn't really matter whether I will experience that or not. I am actually grateful for even this yearning, because until that, I was nothing. I didn't even know this stage. And this is one of Petaji's poems, Paisa Bhai Singh Ji's poems, where Dasme Pacha goes into the Jamuna to bathe. And then Jamuna says, did he bathe in me or did I bathe in him? And she goes then looking for him all over, and she goes to the sannyasis and the yogis, and she travels to the ethers. Where is he? Where is he? She asks for everyone, and they all tell her, and I'm using the word her because that's Jamuna is her in this poem. And they all tell her, he is no more. He is no longer here. He is no longer here, but we are here. And she says, I don't want you. I only want him. And if that was my experience of him, that yearning for him to come back and bathe in me or I in him, I will wait for that for the rest of my life. I'm prepared. That is a gift. So Gerard, that yearning has become a gift. So that ਜਿਹੜੀ ਖਿੱਚ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ and that yearning, when it begins with an intense pain. There is literally a burning. And then there is a steadiness. And then at the last stage is, I don't even know what it is, but then there is that stage of gratitude. Thank God for this yearning, because without this yearning, I would have been nothing. So even this pain has this element of growth in it. And this pain has that element of getting to the place of shukr and gratitude where you grow. So it's not just pain. That pain allows you to grow and allows you to blossom and bloom, as hard as it is. And I would say I probably don't wish this pain on anyone, and yet I do. Because in that pain, because when that seed has to blossom, it has to push so hard against the earth. And it's that pain of pushing through, and that seed blossoms. So if you can look at that pain as that pushing of that seed for that beautiful seed to blossom, maybe that would be easier. I know I went long-winded, but it just spoke so closely to my own journey that I shared this with Dishmeet Kaur and you, Jaswant Singh. But let's take the second question. Divine love is experiencing Shabad. How can divine love and love for human be compared?
I think what we said, we are not trying to compare both. And I have already said, human love is limited in its nature and self-oriented most of the times.
Mhm.
whereas the divine love is unlimited. So in that case, I mean, we are not comparing, and it can't be really compared. But we are just seeing that when you feel that divine love, how can you experience, how can you relate that divine love in yourself with the humans around you? Because when the Bani says, see the divine or feel the divine in everyone, so in a way, it is asking you the love and devotion that you have within you for the divine or for the guru to expand that devotion and love and see that love manifesting through everyone. So we were just trying to, delve into this, not in any way comparing or saying, that they become absolutely one. Thank you.
Mm. So then there's another question from Amar. And Amar asks, why is it difficult to define the word love?
Why it is difficult to define?
Define the word love. Okay. Kiki tusi is 4-letter alphabet which like okay. How I don't know how to define love. It's just a feeling. It's a feeling, but there's much more. I mean, the English word of love, LOV, does not capture what you and I have spoken about. That's so Jaswant Singh.
Absolutely. I think, anything which is related to your emotions, which is related to your heart, something within. So express that feeling and that emotion, that experience in words is always hard. And to put it just into one word is definitely much harder than that. Because this love, as we have seen, has forms of friendship, of kindness, of care, of concern, so many things, of intimacy, of so many other things. So putting all those things into one word, so this is where it is hard to define that. How do you define what is that love? Even if you ask somebody what is love, so it's very hard to define this in 1 or 2 words, because love is a feeling, it's an emotion which has then so many manifestations in practical life. This is what I think.
Yeah. So there's another question, and this was from Pratpal Singh. How can we develop feeling of devotion into permanence when it comes to us naturally in Sahed? So I think that was what I was talking about, Ki, even in that sacredness, that feeling that shifts just one thing to, So what is it that we can do for this feeling to continue? What should I would love to hear that. That's a great question. Thank you, Pratpal Singh, for asking that question.
I think it reminds me of a talk in Japji Sahib. Gaviye, suniye, man rakhiye, pao. And pao is love. So maybe this book helps us that, being connected with Gurbani, that is literally singing Gurbani, listening to Gurbani, it's like being in connection with Gurbani in whatever ways it is possible. So that help you to cherish this devotion, this love. And because otherwise, we are engaged throughout the time. Like out of 24 hours, at least 18 hours or so, or maybe, into the world, into family, into stuff and tasks and things we do. So we are going to forget, right? So that is why in Sikhi, Sat Sangat and Gurbani and Naam and Simran and Siva, these are the things. So I think all these things, maybe in very short periods of time, whenever and as they are applicable to you and as you can do them. So I think they help a lot. They give you the reminders. And because throughout the Bani, whichever Bani you read, they are going to be the words of love, of devotion, of immersion, of prem. Just in Japji Sahib, the word love is used multiple times. At one place, the Guru Sahib tells us, if you ask a question, what is the language of the divine? So he says, love is the language of the divine. So I mean, being closer to Gurbani, continually being connected with the Gurbani will help you, definitely helps us to delve more into this devotion and love and make it stronger and make it continue.
Yeah. Daswant Padsha says, those who love, they experience the divine. I mean, for me, this was such a powerful line. It's so clear. It's not those who have courage, not those who have an intellectual understanding. It's those who love. And one does not need to go to a school to learn how to love. There's no degree needed. So why love? Is it just with the, is it just with the ones we like, or is it with everyone? Is it just with human beings, or is it with the entire creation? What is this power? What is this love that enables us or takes us to experience the ultimate reality, the one, the Prab, that vastness? What is this love?
Yes, I think you're right. When you said, the Dasam Patsha, the 10th Guru, he has used this tok, Jin Prem Kiyo Tinhi Prabhupayo, one of his soyas. And there basically this svaya, this stanza is referring to the ritual practices that people have been doing in those times and still continue doing. And he says, these ritual practices are not going to help you to experience the divine. It is love and devotion for the divine that should flow from your heart. And then whatever you do, in whichever way you try to connect with the divine, if you have love, deep-rooted love for the divine, if you have that devotion, that will help you to connect. That will help you to experience. And we see that is why maybe throughout the Guru Granth Sahib, these elements of love and devotion, they continue alongside truth, wisdom, righteousness, contentment, and many other attributes that we see in Gurbani. And you have rightly said, it has nothing to do with being educated or not. Like one of the tok in Guru Granth Sahib by Guru Arjan Patsha, say, Jo prani govind te aave, padya, anpadya, paramgat paave. It doesn't matter, if somebody is educated or uneducated. What matters is how much focus, love, devotion, and remembrance of the divine you have within your heart. That matters. And if that is there, then that is enough to liberate you, to provide you freedom. So this is how I look at these things, and this is how I see that talk, that you have referred to, Jin Prem Kiyo, Tinhi Prabhupada. Rather, if you see in the Gurbani, we are most of the times asking whether we do a part, whether we do ardas or a prayer, how should we do? What is the method? We are more interested in knowing the methods. Is there a specific method of doing this thing? And you will be surprised to hear, that throughout Guru Granth Sahib, there is no method as such mentioned in the Gurbani. If at all the Guru Sahib tells us any method, what method? So he says, method is love. Method is that you should recite it, you should sing it from the heart. That's the method. So this is where, this Jin Prem Kiyo comes in. That whatever you are doing in the name of religion, as your daily practice, as your Nitnem, as your part, as your Bani, whatever, if it lacks love, if it lacks devotion, it is incomplete. If it doesn't, at least, I used to say this, that at least when you're doing your part, maybe for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes, if during those 10 or 20 minutes you did not realize or experience or at least felt some divine presence, then Don't expect that you will feel it later on, because that's the moment, that's the time. Maybe just 5 minutes, maybe just 10 minutes. When you're sitting there, that must enable you to feel that presence. And that comes when you do it through love and through devotion. At least this is how I look at it.
You know, when you were speaking, I think for me, there was, I was thinking of Baba Deep Singh and Bhai Mani Singh. You know, I look at them and listening to what you were saying, it just is, they were so deeply in love. I mean, they all प्यार विच रंगे हुए सीगे. They were immersed in that love. And I think it's when you're immersed in that love, then that stage of balehar, right? It's natural. I'm not quite sure. I mean, do I dare to even say this was their ishq? Because for this ishq, for this beloved of theirs, for whatever it was, they did everything and gave up everything. I mean, listening to you and then this flash, I just had this flashback, and this is what Bhai Mani and Bhai Baba Deep Singh, because those are figures for me, which are important figures for me for different, because of who they are. And I've been reading their life history, the little that I know, have always like why, and then listening to you, they were immersed. I'm convinced, oh range hoye se, that's rang, they were dyed in this color, and then which enabled them to do what they did.
Absolutely. And this reminds me of another beautiful tuk from Guru Bani, just to connect what you have said. At the one hand, we hear this tuk, Sura so pehchaniye jo lare deen ke het.
Right.
Sura is a warrior, right? He is the warrior. He is a warrior who fights in the battlefield. So this is one aspect of it. On the other hand, the Gurbani also tells us, Jako har rang lago is jug mein, so kahiyat hai sura. So har rang is, as you have just said, love, color of love. Those who are immersed, imbued with the color of love, they are the true warriors. And when we look at Baba Deep Singh, Bhai Mani Singh, and many others, such warriors in the Sikh history, I mean, they are mesmerizing. Their stories are so fascinating. They tell us in true sense, in practice, that how do you fall in love and how do you rise in love. I see them, they've fallen in love with the Guru, and they rose to the extent that nothing was, there that they were afraid of, whether it is life or death or whatever. And the inspiration they receive for these ultimate acts of valor they performed during their lives, this comes from Shabad. This comes from Gurbani. You might be aware that Guru Nanak Padshah, the founder of Sikhi, he revealed this beautiful line, Jao to prem khelan ka chao. Prem is love. And he says, if you desire to play the game of love with me, if you want to establish love with me, the Guru Nanak is asking the seekers, us, the disciples, Jao to prem khelan ka chao. So what should you do? He says, this is what you need to do. Sir tar tali gali meri aao. Then step onto my path with your head on your palm. So this is the ultimate step: love, devotion, surrender, and sacrifice. So this is Guru Nanak. And not just the Guru Nanak, In the same vein, I see his successor, Guru Angad Pasha, also saying the same thing in different words. He said, Jes pyare syo neho. Neho is another term for pyar, sneh. The one you have love with, Jes pyare syo neho. Tis aage mar chaliye. If need be, you must die for him. Wow. And he gives the logic. Why? Why should one do this? He says, because trek jivan sansar takai pache jivana. To turn away from the one you love and exist is to live a worthless life in this world.
Yes.
So look at, how deeply they see this element of love and devotion when we see in Gurbani and in the lives of the gurus themselves. Another talk I'm reminded of is again from Baba Farid. He also uses very similar connotations, very similar messages with different words. He says, Joban jande na daran, je shah preet na jaye. Preet is love, intense love. That I'm not afraid of losing my youth as long as I do not lose my love, my devotion. Why? And he says, he explains in the next line, Farida, kitti joban preet ben, suk gahe kumlaye. Because many youths without love have dried up and withered away. So I don't care if my youth also goes away. What I care is, I care for love.
Yes, my
I
preet.
care for devotion. And there's another Pagat, you just mentioned the beginning, Pagat Ravidas. If you ask him, what's your opinion? What are your thoughts on this? So he says, yeah, he says, I fully agree. Kaha payo jo tan bhayo chen chen. He says, Kaha bhayo? What happened? Doesn't matter if my body withers away. What matters is love. Prem jaye to dar pe terujan. That your devotee is bothered only if he loses your love, O divine. So whether it is youth, his body, it is life, whatever, look at them. What they bother is, they bother for love. They bother for devotion. That in any case, I must not lose this. So this also tells us, the intensity that these people, the contributors in the Guru Granth Sahib and in the Sikh history from Baba Deep Singh onwards, they had, like, this love for them was life. It was so deep rooted in them that throughout their lives they lived. When they lived, they were immersed into it. And if ultimately there was time to give up life for that love, the Guru, they gave it. And they gave it like, again, they celebrated that giving
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It is a celebration.
Thank you for asking this question.
No, it is a celebration, because to see apne pyar di khatar kar rahe ho, you're not doing it for yourself. It's not even you have no choice. There is no option. I mean, I love what Pacha has said. If you desire to play the game of love with me, then step onto my path with the head on your palm. Yes, this is a game of love, Jaswant Singh Ji, no question. It's a game that demands all, wants all, and then some. And, in the West, because I have grown up in the West, we talk about love, but we don't talk about devotion. This element of devotion, we don't even hear them together. Why is that?
Can you repeat your question?
I said in the West, we talk about love. We know about that. I come from, that I'm not educated in the East. We talk about love, but devotion, at least I have never associated or come across that in love there's also a devotional element. Why is that?
I mean, it is hard to respond to this question why it is, but maybe what I think, and as we have discussed in the very beginning, the word love in English is related to somewhere desire and greed. So it is very limited in its connotation, right? And if you look at the root word from Latin, lubere, so that still means to please. So looks like, that this here love means having a desire from the one you love, some expectations there. There is some element of greed, and there is some sense of pleasing someone. So to me, maybe this one of the reasons, whereas the terms used in Gurbani or in Indic culture, prem, pyar, ishq, muhabbat, number one is they look at the variety of terms used there. And as we have seen in Gurbani, love and devotion used together. So maybe this might be the reason that culturally in
Yes.
Eastern culture, when you say love, and true love is only considered when it has the element of devotion. Until this is there, it is like a not that sort of, it's raw love, you can say, which can be broken, which can be lost. But when devotion comes in, it becomes permanent. It becomes stronger. That may be one of the reasons, I think.
I know in one of your conversations, in one of you had brought up the word, and it stuck with me, the word surrender in this game of love, right? There is that surrender element that enters in this pyar, in this whatever, and it's a feeling. But surrender, when you look at it in the English connotation, in the Western connotation, it's a feeling of defeat. It's waving up the white flag. But in Gurbani, the surrender is not defeat. This surrender is so beautiful. So I'd love for you to share with our audience and with me the depth of this word and what it carries with it. That it's not a negation. I mean, when I translate and when I write about surrender, I always write loving - surrender. Because otherwise the word surrender by itself is ominous. It's like, it scares people. Why do I have to surrender? Why do I have to lose my individuality? Because we are so still I-focused. And yet everything that I have experienced and everything that I have read, it is jab tak wo I doesn't leave you, unless that surrender doesn't happen, that journey doesn't begin.
Wonderful. I think when I look at these words, especially the surrender, I don't see that I'm losing something or I'm being defeated. Maybe because I'm coming from the Gurbani perspective, and I'm looking more into those kind of things. So in the Gurbani, this surrender is a willing surrender. It is not for the sake of the other, right? It is not the someone else wants me to surrender. Like in the case of Guru, if I surrender, so I know this surrender is going to liberate me. This surrender is going to grace me with the love of the Guru. This surrender is going to make me much closer, more closer to the Guru. So I mean, in Gurbani, from the Gurbani perspective, this is the connotation there. This is the feeling, right? That this surrender is not going to make you feel low. This is going to feel higher. This is going to feel like you are now in the lap of the Guru. So maybe because of this different cultural connotation of surrender, right? So here, like surrendering to the Guru is like completely, being in love. And that is where actually you say that you are completely devoted to the Guru. So devotion to the Guru, like, I mean, see, throughout the Sikh history, whether it is the day of the Khalsa, Sajana, or whatever, So asking for the head, asking for surrender is a very common, it's very cultural part. And the people are willing to do that. There's no hesitation at all. Maybe now this hesitation has come in our lives, that we think of why surrender and why submit. Maybe we are not aware that what this surrender is going to provide us. So this surrender is going to give us eternal freedom. This surrender is going to grace us with the Guru's love. So if you see this, I think then it becomes natural. Then you do it willingly. Right. And that is why in Sikhi, the depth is also a celebration.
Yes.
Because it's not defeat,
Yes.
it's victory.
True.
Yep.
Jaswant Singh ji, I'm looking at the time, and yet I'm seeing all the questions also there. So I think we'll take one last question, and then I'll ask for your closing thought. And you may want to answer this because I don't know how to answer this, but I'm going to ask the question. Have the panelists witnessed divine love in human relationship? Please describe what you saw, behavior. Wise idea.
Can you repeat again, please?
Hanji, have the panelists witnessed divine love in human relationships? Please describe what you saw, what behavior, I guess they want to know. And this question is asked by Pritpal Singh. So have you witnessed divine love in a human relationship, Jaswant Singh ji?
I think you have already shared your experience about that, right? That you have experience and you did experience that.
Right.
And when I look into my own life, so I also see, there were many such people around my life, those who helped me to grow into Sikhi. And if not in fullness, I do realize, I do see that I experienced, I saw, and I had that feeling of divine love. Maybe it was 70%, 80% compared to 100%, I saw those things. In the sense, when we read Gurbani, so we come across so many virtues, so many attributes, and then we look around. Where do we find these virtues being practiced? Right? Gurbani asks you to be completely content, ask you to be completely truthful, to be virtuous, to be patient. Are there people, those who are living these virtues in life? So at least I was blessed to be in the company of those, not to particularly name anyone. They were very ordinary people, whether they were working with me, some of them were my colleagues, my seniors, and some of them from my relatives. So I did notice and I did see that, yes, here I can see this. What is always being cheerful in the will. When we say hukum vich khush rehna, hukum de vich sada chardi kala vich rehna. So I saw those things in people, that whether it is a very difficult time or whatever, one of them, I always remember, always used to use this tuk, jiv jiv hukam tibe tibkar. And he meant it when he said it. And when you look at his life, he was a very ordinary person, that he may not be very much into the Bani as we see, or someone else. But he used to use this talk always. Jiv jiv hukam koi gal nahi, ho sab theek ho jayega. Jiv jiv hukam tibe tibkar. So when I noticed those kind of things, so that made me think this is what the Gurbani asks us to be like. This is what it means to have that experience of divine love and devotion in your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, there have been plenty of people in my life where I've been able to have those glimpses and yearn to be like them. And I can say it was starting with my grandfather, with my Dadaji. And it was like, there was a presence about him, Jaswant Singh Ji, that he would enter a room and there would be silence. And it was not a silence of fear. This was a silence of tremendous respect and something he carried with him. And he barely spoke. He barely spoke. But as a child, I would witness that. And then when I was in turmoil, it was like, what do I really want? And it was his image that flashed. I didn't know what it was. I said, that's what I want, what he had. Much later on, I realize what it was. So there's definitely people around you that carry this grace, this divinity. Are we willing to look for it? Do we have the eyes to look for it? Can we absorb that? That's the question. It's been an incredible hour and a half with you, 90 minutes, Jaswant Singh Ji. And before we end this session, I'd love, are there any thoughts, closing thoughts, parting words? You've been just, you're a treasure house. Wisdom has just been flowing. I know from the comments that I've been reading how that the audience has really been grateful for your wisdom and guidance, and they've been saying they've been enjoying the way you've been relating everything back to Barney. And so thank you for that. And I knew you would do that because that's who you are. But your parting words, before we close the session.
Thank you so much, Inni, for having me here. And secondly, thank you to the audience, because it's the audience which makes us to delve through, to have research, more research, to reflect, to think. And I think the credit goes really to the audience, because we are aware that the SikhRI's audience is very wiser and very interested and really deep into these things. So that helps us to be well in advance, be prepared. So thank you, everyone, for being there. And thank you, Inni. And before we close, I would really like to have a few more words. Number one is, as a closing remark about love and devotion, I would say, to me, both of these words, both of these elements, both of these experiences are, I would say, finest things to cherish in life. And they stretch your heart. They make you bigger. They make you bolder than before. And these are the words, when practiced genuinely, will take you to the path of happiness and contentment. But the question remains is, how do we experience them? How do we experience this love and devotion? So when I delve into that how do you really, is it through your own effort or how? So I think two things comes into my mind. One is that reminds me of a quote which says, maybe love is like a luck. You have to go all the way to find it. And what I mean to say is, in Guru Ramdas Padshah's words, that this love, he says, comes through grace. As you know, so here you can replace the luck with grace. So the Bani, the Tuk says, Pao, Pao, Preet, Nanak, Tisa hai lag hai. Pao and Preet. And there's another word, Pao, that is reverence. This reverence, this devotion, this love. This is received by the one, Jesu tu apni kirpa kare, to whom you grace. So this is the one thing that we need to seek all the time. And to seek that grace or feel that grace, there's another clue from the Gurbani that I would like to end. And that is something to say, demand nothing and give up everything to the one you love. You can't buy it, you can't have it, this love, with any amount of wealth, riches, beauty, or force. It needs complete surrender. And there is a beautiful slok by Guru Arjan Padshah in Guru Granth Sahib, which refers to a mythological story and says, Samman joy is prem ki. The word prem, remember? Dhai akshar prem ke. So, Samman joy is prem ki. Dam kyau hoti saat. Dam is money. And saat is exchange. If one could exchange or earn this love with money, so he says, remember, Raman hote so rank nahi. You remember Raman, the king of Lanka, Ceylon, who was one of the most powerful king and most powerful rich person, and whose capital city Lanka was said to be made in gold. The Guru says he wasn't a poor person. He has so much wealth. He was so much rich. But remember, the story goes that to earn the love of his deity, Lord Shiva, he could have given gold. He could have given wealth and money and so many other things. Or he could have earned that love, through force, through power. He couldn't. What he has to do was he has to offer his heads 11 times, it is said, before he earned love of Lord Shiva. So Ravan hote so rank ne jin sir dino kaat. So I would like to say this, two words, grace, and then this is giving your head. That is surrender. That is complete devotion. So lastly, I would say, let us continue seeking grace and striving for this love and devotion. If we continue constantly with faith, with trust, the day will come when we will savor these sublime elements of love and devotion. Just stay there and stay in view. Thank you.
I mean, that was exquisite. I have no words. It's, you talk about grace, and it's everything. And when I know we say we're all graced, and I believe that we're all graced, we may not recognize it, but it's when you feel that grace and when you can say, I'm living the life in grace, with grace, in the presence, with the present, hazuri vich, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ hazuri vich ਰਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, that is feeling, living in that presence, that love and devotion just flows. Jaswant Singh, I cannot even begin to thank you so much for this incredible 90 minutes. It's truly been an honor and a privilege to be here with you. And I know deeply that the audience has really enjoyed it. And if I may be so bold enough to say, I will ask you to come back to have another session. And if the audience has some topic they want to discuss with Jaswant Singh, I'd be happy to take all your suggestions because we want him back here. So Manvinder, if you would like to come back on and tell us what the next stage of the closing of the webinar is.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I echo what's already been shared. I think the chat has been very lovely. It's nice to see everyone engaging and sharing their insights. This was a lovely way to start my Saturday morning. Again, on behalf of SikhRI, I thank Inni, Kaur, Dr. Jaswant Singh, and our e-Sangat today. Thank you all for tuning in and spending time with us. I know our chat was very lively, so I apologize for those questions that were not addressed due to our time constraints. You're more than welcome to ask those questions on our Twitter or our Facebook page, and we'll be sure to post our replies. To give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what's coming on our social media this week, we have Thursday Thoughts, where we get to know Banda Singh Bahadur through the writings of Dr. Ganda Singh. I also know that in the lead up to Vaisakhi, we're going to be sharing 13 inspirational videos. And just to acknowledge again that Dr. Jaswant Singh is here, who is leading the Guru Granth Sahib project. I have linked our website, gurugranthsahib.io, and next week we will be releasing the 9 Shabads of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji in Rag Ghori. As always, a recording of this webinar will be available within 24 hours. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Today's webinar will be ending now. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
You were listening to SikhCast by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.